Dropping now. Stand by for Titanfall.
Well, hello guys, and welcome back to another DTH Reviews. Today we are doing Titanfall. Today's review is going to be slightly different because I actually haven't played Titanfall. It's only Jameson who has played it. I do not have an Xbox One. I do not have a capable PC. But, Jameson, it was kind of your idea. You said it probably would work if it was just kind of you giving your insight in the game. And I reckon we could make still a good conversation out of it. There might be a few games in the future that maybe one of us missed, so this is kind of the first time we're going to be giving this a go, and hopefully it'll work. If this format works out, it will just kind of give us more room to do different games that maybe one of us doesn't have time to play, one of us doesn't have the capability to play, but this is a bit of an experiment, hopefully it goes alright. So, the way I thought it was a good idea that I would kind of just ask Jameson questions that I think are quite important to a multiplayer game, and then, yeah, we're going to see what you think. You played it on PC, right?
Yeah, I've only played it on the PC. I have not seen the Xbox One version.
Okay, well, the first thing I'm going to ask you is, I recently played Call of Duty Ghosts, and the multiplayer did not in any way capture me. I played one game and I was like, you know what, I'm a bit done with this formula.
Yeah.
And then I tried to jump into Killzone, and it was kind of similar. I was like, I'm not really. I think I'm just kind of in that stage where I'm kind of not in the mood for first-person shooters now. What would you say is different enough about Titanfall to kind of change that? Like, why is Titanfall different?
Well, yeah, okay, I'll just back up a little bit. I was in the same boat. Like, I played Ghosts and played, I think, maybe 3 matches, and I was like, yep, this is still Call of Duty.
I get it.
And Killzone, I think, is actually a pretty good multiplayer, but again, it's just, you're on foot, you go around, and you shoot things with a gun. The only multiplayer I've been playing recently, basically for the last, like, 2 years, has been Battlefield. And I like Battlefield because there are vehicles and lots of dumb shit happening, like helicopters falling out of the sky. I think what makes Titanfall interesting and unique is the movement and the fact that there are giant robots. The movement in particular, I don't know what it is, but it makes getting around really easy, and it makes you sort of like move through the environments a lot different. It makes you think a lot differently when you're playing because you can get from the bottom floor to like the absolute highest point in the map or across the map in like 5 or 10 seconds, you know.
It looks very fluid from the videos I've seen.
It is. It's extremely fluid. Like, you just run up and jump onto a wall and you're wall running, and if you jump off that wall and double jump, you just get onto the next wall, and then if you want to hang onto the wall, you just aim and you stab a knife into that wall and you hang off that wall.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is it's extremely useful, especially for like capture the flag mode. You can just hang on a wall and cover the flag. But so it's that, and it's the like back and forth between like weak and powerful, I think. So you start off as a pilot, everybody starts off as a pilot, and you're not as weak as a Call of Duty game. Like, you don't die quite as fast as Call of Duty, but you start off and you're just on foot running around shooting other dudes, and then sort of I don't know what the right word is, but you get more powerful, and then you call in your Titan, and then everybody switches to Titans, or some people switch to Titans, and then your Titan, like, you get some more kills with it, and you get a power up in your Titan, which makes you even stronger, and then your Titan blows up and you start over. And I think that is the biggest part, is the sort of back and forth between being like super strong and then back onto foot, running around shooting enemies. So it's those two things. It's the movement and the ebb and flow of the matches that make it new and make it feel fun. And it's surprisingly accessible as well. Like, they put a bunch of really useless AI in the game in the form of grunts. They're just like military dudes, NPCs that run around.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about them and how they play into it.
They attempt to shoot at you. I have stood in front of a grunt for a good 10 seconds, and he has just looked right back at me, doing absolutely nothing. But they're there to make it, like, for people that aren't really good at shooting other humans, you can shoot these guys, and like basically whenever you are hitting any enemy, you are taking time off your counter to how quickly you can build your Titan. And it starts off with 4 minutes, and every time you shoot a player, it's like 15 seconds get off. Every time you shoot a grunt, it's like 2 or 3 seconds get chipped off at that timer. And so if you're not good at shooting humans, you can go and shoot the grunts, and they don't do anything. They are really just there to give you more points and make you feel like you're actually doing something, which I think is
cannon fodder.
They are, yeah, they're cannon fodder, and I think it's a cool idea. They don't really do anything. They don't serve much purpose. Which,
well, do they help break up like the gap between meeting players? Because people were worried that there was only 6 people per team. Do they help like break up like encounters?
Yeah, they do, because the maps are surprisingly big. The majority of the maps are, they have sort of a core area that seems relatively tight and small, but there is a huge amount of area around the outside of that map. And 6v6, it sounds a little low, especially considering Battlefield's out now with like 64 people. And but yeah, there are very rarely times where you are not actively shooting at something, and that is in big part to the grunts, because they fill out the time gaps between when you're killing other humans. And like in a normal team deathmatch mode, you might think that you're getting lots of kills, but then you look at the scoreboard and you've only found another human like 3 times.
Oh, can you not tell the difference between grunts and humans? You can. The humans, I mean, the grunts don't. The majority of the grunts just walk around on foot. They can't jump around at all, and you can spot a Titan or a human immediately because they're running super fast and jumping on walls, and they have it says their gamer tag over their head. And yeah, you can differentiate, but in the heat of the battle, like when you're moving quick, it is kind of tricky to spot the difference. I mean, after a while, it gets easier to recognize the difference between a pilot and a grunt, but for the most part, they are pretty similar. So yeah, they do a good job of filling it out, of filling in the gaps, like you said, and it keeps things constantly, like you're constantly doing things, which is good. Nice. Okay, one thing that is important to me is obviously balance. Is there anything that stands out as being too overpowerful? Because I look at the Titans and I'm like, these things look terrifying. Like, when you see a Titan, can you easily go against it? Or
yeah, that's one of the more polished parts of the game. I mean, it's an extremely well-made game, and the balance of things like that is so important. And Titans, like, you might think they're really strong, but they're really not. They go down relatively quickly. Like, if you are against 2 other Titans, if it's 2v1, your Titan will go down in like 10 seconds.
Wow.
They do explode pretty quickly, and there are 3 weapon slots for pilots. You have your primary, your pistol, and then an anti-Titan weapon. And there's like 3 or 4 different anti-Titan weapons. And yeah, if you can do battle against a Titan when you're on foot quite effectively, because you can get up onto the high ground and cloak, which makes you more or less invisible to a Titan, and you have like 15 rockets in your RPG that takes on Titans, and each shot does like a quarter of its health. So you can fight against a Titan with relative ease. And
but do you still feel powerful as a Titan?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a weird thing.
I know.
You say that like a Titan isn't supremely powerful, but when you go from being on foot and dying so easily, and then you get like not only like the height change, but your health changes, and you get this massive gun in your face, and you do feel more powerful, and you are more powerful, but only to an extent. You're not like, if you call on a Titan in the first few minutes, you're not going to have that Titan to the end of the game. You're going to go through like 3 or 4 in a match. So yeah, and then on top of all that, like, it's important to balance, Titan and pilots, but also like weapons. I think it's really important to have balanced weapons. You can't have something like Halo 4. It feels like the DMR is the only weapon that you should be using because it's too powerful,
And the Warthog feels like a piece of paper on wheels.
Yeah, and the Warthog's completely useless. And that's not the case here. There are not a lot of weapons in this game, which is one of the aspects that I think is a bit of a disappointment and a bit of a problem. Is I think there are like 10 pilot weapons and like 6 Titan weapons, which 16 weapons isn't a ton, but it's also not like an insanely low number. But all the weapons, they all feel useful, like they all have their place. None of them seem too powerful, though the first weapon you unlock is a carbine, and that's more or less like the go-to weapon for all areas. But yeah, it's like the two best things in this game are map design and gameplay balance, and the maps are superb. There are 15 maps, and each one of them is...
That's a nice number.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty good number considering the average game ships with like 10 or 12 nowadays. Yeah, 15 maps. They are all... like whoever's designing the maps, they know what they're doing. Because the maps are probably the best selection of maps I've seen in a long time, just in terms of quality. Like each one feels different and looks different and plays different, but each one of them... you know, it's not like Titans are really strong on this one map as opposed to another. They're extremely well designed, and there's lots of there are lots of really cool things that happen outside of some of the maps. Like there's one map that has giant monsters attacking. There's like giant, like sort of dinosaur things that are breaking through the perimeter fences of the map while you're playing.
What? Do they come into the map?
No, they just as the match ends, they will start breaking through the wall, like just be about to crash through the map just as the match ends. So it's like, you know, it has certain programming triggers that happen at certain points in the match, and there's only one map like that, but it's a really cool idea, and it's you could just like stand on top of a roof and watch the outside of the map for the whole game, and it would still be interesting.
That's neat. I think the thing that's most impressive so far is I was really expecting at least one thing to kind of pop up that you were like, it's not quite balanced, but the fact that you're like, it plays well and it's really balanced with all these different factors and variations. I'm pretty impressed, to be honest with you. There's a lot that I reckon that could have gone, not wrong, but they could have maybe got a little bit off. So I think it's quite an accomplishment that they've done here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like through and through the strongest part of the game, is that it's just an extremely well-made game. It's constantly fun to play, and there's no aspect about it that seems like it's too powerful or that there's anything that seems out of balance. Now, I mean, obviously it's only been like 4 days since the game came out. Who knows what it'll look like in a month or 2 months, but yeah, and that is really the best part is that core design. It's just fun to play, and it's really well made. Where it also has a campaign mode, sort of.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that as well. Is it worthwhile?
No. The game is entirely multiplayer, like it's 100% multiplayer, and the campaign mode is just multiplayer. Except in between, like in the lobbies, there's some voiceover, and in the game there is like a radio play happening while you shoot dudes, and it's there's a story, and it's just military boringness, and all of the story happens while you're playing your multiplayer game, and so it's really difficult to follow. So it's like, oh, we're trying to find McMillan guy, keep shooting, pilot, yeah, you got it. And it's like 4 hours to get through the whole thing, maybe, and they have locked 2 of the Titan types behind completing the campaign mode, which is sort of a bummer, because it's just, there are 9 maps that you play on, and there are 2 factions, and you just play through one faction on the 9 maps and then the other faction on the 9 maps, and they tell some sort of story, and it's almost impossible to follow. It's kind of a waste of time, to be honest. It
makes me a little sad, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, because it's a cool idea, I think. I
reckon it could have really worked for a really nicely fleshed out campaign if they put the effort in. But I remember watching a video, and I think it was an interview with whoever was behind it. I know it was Infinity Ward, but there was one person in particular, and he said that he was very disappointed in the amount of people that actually bothered playing the Call of Duty campaigns.
Yeah, it's like 15% of people complete Call of Duty campaigns.
Yeah, they would slave over them, and I've nearly enjoyed all the Call of Duty campaigns, and it's just really disappointing to know that the community just doesn't put the time in, and that has actually made a difference towards the outcome of Titanfall. And I know the multiplayer is, as you've said, fantastic, but I think it would have really worked for a campaign, and I'm sad that such a little amount of people bothered to play the Call of Duty campaigns that they just didn't even bother this time.
Yeah, and like they're a new team, obviously. Like there was like the 40 Infinity Ward people left and started this studio, and they're a small. I think they're like 65 people or 70 people at Respawn making Titanfall, and they like, why should they spend their limited time and budget making a campaign that 15% of people will play? I can't blame them at all. And I think it is a cool idea to like incorporate storytelling into multiplayer, but it just doesn't, or they don't do anything interesting with it here, which is kind of a bummer, because it seems like a neat universe, You know, like there were monsters in some cases. There were giant robots. So yeah, that's one of the two disappointing aspects. The other disappointing aspect is there's sort of not a lot of stuff in the game.
Okay.
You know, it's a $60 game, 15 maps. That's great. 10 pilot weapons, 2 of them being snipers, and snipers are completely useless because everyone's running around like, you know, as fast as they can and jumping crazily. So there's like 8 viable weapons, and the first 2 you unlock seem to be the most useful. There's only 5 multiplayer modes.
Have you tried them all?
Yes, and I mean, so there's like 4 game modes. 5 game modes. 2 of them are just variations of team deathmatch, and then I think the 2 objective modes, capture the flag and hardpoint, which is just domination. Those are where like the game is at its absolute best, I think, because you like. To play properly in those objective modes, you have to like experiment with the mechanics. Like you have to experiment with wall hanging and like getting out of your Titan and letting your Titan like guard this one area, which you can tell it to do.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So like I think those 2 objective modes are the like where the game is absolutely at its best. But I mean, 5 modes, like it's only multiplayer. There's no campaign. There's no like Spec Ops equivalent sort of thing or zombies or whatever. And there's 5 modes, a handful of weapons, and no visual customization. You can't put sweet decals on your Titan or anything like that, which is kind of a bummer. There's only like 2 or 3 weapon attachments for each weapon, and that's it. You know, that's the whole game. There's like 15 multiplayer maps, and you play multiplayer, and that's it.
Well, how long do you think that this is going to hold your attention for?
Yeah, that's a big bullet point on my list here, because I don't know that. That's a big unknown.
Yeah, true.
I mean, I've played a lot of it so far, and every single match is just as exciting as the last one. It's stressful and exciting and adrenaline pumping. Like each map is like that, or each match is like that. And but yeah, like it's hard to say. I have no idea if I will want to play this in 6 months. And that's, I don't know, yeah, like that's a big thing, I think. And it's also, we don't know how Respawn is going to support it post-launch, which I think developer support of a multiplayer game is so essential for a game's success. I mean, look at, I hate to say it, but like look at Halo 4. And then look at Halo 3.
Yeah.
You know, a lot, like it's, developer support is so important to listen to the community and like fix things and tweak things and put out new matches, new modes, and new multiplayer maps and new weapons and things like that. So yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, we just have to see.
It would, yeah. I like multiplayer games. I like having a multiplayer game that I enjoy to go to when there's nothing else to play. Like the last 2 months, there's just been nothing, you know. So it's like, oh, I'll play some Battlefield, sure. I would like to think that I'll still enjoy it in 6 months or a year, but I have no idea, and that's problematic. Well, it's not problematic, but it's, you know, it's a little scary, sort of, because it's, you know, it's a full-priced game, and there's one thing to do in it, and if you don't enjoy that thing for a couple months, then maybe, I don't know.
I have one more question, and then I'm pretty sure that's everything I want to know. How does the community play? Because that was one of the things that affected Call of Duty the most, is that sometimes people latched on to certain things they could exploit, or they just played like general assholes, and it really does affect the game depending on how the people play it. So have you noticed just people being just dickheads, or just people play fairly? Is it fun to play with people? Yeah,
I haven't, like, it's again, it's early to say, you know, because exploits sort of like come to light after a month or 2 of playing.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, true.
But so far, people seem to just be playing it, and playing it, it's a terrible thing to say, but playing it properly, they seem to be doing a good job of that. I think people still haven't quite gotten used to the parkour stuff. If I don't see people jumping around as much, I tend to be like, if I'm not sitting still, if I'm not like running full tilt, moving as fast as I can in that game, I feel like I'm doing it wrong. But so far, like, there's nothing to exploit, and there's no real way for people to be assholes so far. And you know, it's hard to say whether that'll, you know, that could change tomorrow for all I know.
Yeah,
but
that is very true.
So far, people just seem to like they just seem to be having fun playing it, which is good.
Yeah, it sounds great. I am envious.
You know,
I'm envious.
multiplayer shooters are so boring. They've gotten so old.
Yeah.
So yeah, Titanfall. It's really fun. Like, it's just, I can't say that I have really gotten excited about like almost any multiplayer game in a long time. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Modern Warfare 2 was kind of the last thing that I really like played a lot of. And then, you know, I've played Battlefield like casually since then, but this is basically the most fun I've had playing a multiplayer game in many years, and it made me excited to play a first-person military multiplayer-only game, which I have been slowly moving farther away from in terms of enjoyment. So I think that, you know, it's hard not to compare it to Call of Duty, because these are a lot of the same people that made Call of Duty. It looks a lot like Call of Duty. It plays a lot like Call of Duty in terms of gunplay. If you've gotten bored of Call of Duty, I really think it's worth checking out, because it is like constantly a ton of fun. There is not as much content as there could be, I think, but it's an extremely well-made game, and I think people should play it. But it's hard to say how long it's going to be fun to play for, and $60 might be a bit of an ask for this, you know, in terms of content. I'm going to give it a big solid 4 stars.
Nice.
I love it. It's unbelievably fun, but there could be a little bit more in it, I think, and they may add that over time.
I'm still really looking forward to giving it a go. I think, you know, sitting down and just kind of listening to you talk about it, and me being able to ask my specific questions about things I was interested in, it's been interesting, and it's made me excited about the game. And you're right when you say the fact that we are, well, I know you played it, but the fact that I'm still looking forward to playing a military shooter shows that they've done something pretty impressive. You know, this genre has got very samey, so the fact that they've stepped out the box and they've done something different, I'm excited. I'm more excited about the future of Titanfall, maybe Titanfall 2. I know I haven't even played the first one yet, but I don't know. Maybe it's just because the military shooter genre was one of my favourites, and I've kind of been saddened by the fact I find it so stale.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to companies maybe looking at Titanfall, maybe seeing its success and thinking maybe we should do something a bit different. So I'm happy to hear that it works and it plays well.
Yeah, it's not the second coming of Jesus Christ himself, but it is pretty good. You know, it's not gonna be like Call of Duty 4 was. It's not gonna change the world, but it's just good old fun to play.
Yep, that's it. We tried a different format. Hopefully it still worked out okay and you guys still enjoyed it. Thanks for listening yet again, and we'll see you next time.